Minnesota is going crazy, losing their mind, and it's really blown up after Nick Shirley exposed all this fraud in the Somali community there with the daycares. And there's protests all over, and then we get the shooting of Renee Good, and it's blowing up. It's all kinds of stuff going on, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So um, there's a church that Don Lemon and his cronies broke into during worship and disrupted everybody, and were total annoying assholes. And Jake Lang was there at a protest, and he got mobbed and attacked, and there all kinds of stuff like that. So these Minnesota crazy rioter protest lunatics think that they think that this is like the civil rights movement all over again, and they think they're really standing up for what's right and what's moral and what's good. And it's pretty delusional. Imagine thinking that standing up for criminals who stole billions of dollars, for illegal criminals who stole billions of dollars from American people, that's the civil rights movement all over again. These people are fucking delusional. They so badly want this to be a meaningful protest and a meaningful movement, but they're just in the wrong because they're defending rapists and thieves and all kinds of terrible people. But they're acting like, no, these are just normal people who are being disappeared and put into vans and all this kind of shit. But there wouldn't even be ICE presence on the streets in Minnesota if the leadership, like Fry and Tim Walz and these losers, if they didn't restrict and deny ICE access to the prisons. That's all ICE wants to do, is they want to go into the prisons. They want to take the illegals that are there that have been arrested, and they want to deport them. That's how they've been getting these numbers. But when, as has happened many times in these Democrat cities, the leaderships gets all puffed up and tough guy, and they want to put on a show for their base and be like, yep, we're standing up to Trump and we're not going to let him in our prison to take our friends, so they don't let him into the prisons to arrest the criminals who are here illegally and have been charged and convicted of crimes to get them out. They want to protect those people. That's who they're protecting. And that's somehow the civil rights movement of our generation. It's a bunch of these old boomers who that was like the height of their life, and now they're dying and they want to relive the glory of their youth. And then so they have to make this shit up and try to twist it and turn it into being about justice and racism and all this kind of stuff. And really all it's about is getting illegal aliens who commit crimes out of our country. It's not that deep. It's pretty simple. And everybody wants it except for these radical lunatics who think these people are just innocent bystanders that are being kidnapped off the streets. This is not a civil rights movement, okay? This is simply law enforcing what's already the law. Laws the Democrats passed. Laws the Democrats have upheld in the past. Obama had ICE deport people too. But because the left is so desperate for some kind of chaotic, display, and so desperate to make Trump look like he's some kind of authoritarian, and so desperate to have, try to win back the culture, that they go out here and they do these things that are really pathetic and kind of actually embarrassing, like going into a church during church service is really embarrassing and disgusting and stupid. But they're whatever they can do, they're trying like crazy to get clicks. and to go viral and to try to create this narrative in the culture that somehow people are being disappeared and it's authoritarianism and the Gestapo and all this kind of shit, whereas normal people can see the videos and see that ICE agents are standing there being peaceful. They're getting yelled at, they're getting mocked, they're getting ridiculed, they're getting blocked in by cars. If they're the Gestapo, you think they're going to allow that shit to happen? They're not. So that's why it's totally different, and that's all just stupid rhetoric that's really annoying that everybody's kind of sick and tired of. It's just lies and lies trying to it's you tell a lie long enough and it becomes the truth. That's what they're hoping happens because that's what they've always done in the past, and that they think that still works today. But really, it only works with the people they've already brainwashed. Their tiny little group of young psychopathic liberal women and their old boomers. For the rest of us who have brains and reason, we're not distracted by this kind of bullshit. They are trying to create this scenario, and they're trying to manipulate the narrative in the media and all this kind of stuff, but they're finding out that it doesn't actually work when there's a decentralized media and there's all kinds of different people with different platforms. You can't just distort the whole world with NBC News. And they so desperately wish that was still the case when they could just, whatever story they wanted to tell and however they wanted to tell it, then they could just cram it down everybody's throat and everybody had to believe it was the truth because there's no alternatives. There was no other footage. There wasn't anything else you could do about it. But now we see what's really going on. We see these crazy whack job liberals with their crazy ass ideas, with their desperation to create some kind of controversy, their need, or like Don Lemon, he's irrelevant and he's so desperate to be relevant again that he'll do whatever ridiculous, crazy, stupid thing. He's like break into a church in the middle of a church service just because that would be really, really clickbaity. I bet a bunch of people will post that and I'll become relevant again. No, you're not relevant because you're a liar and you're a moron. And nobody wants to listen to you because you're also a racist and a terrible person. So you want to stir up controversy because for your own personal gain. And you don't care who it affects or the problems it causes, or that these people in church were just disrupted and they're not doing anything wrong. And you're going in there acting like they're evil people, criminals. You're not helping the blah, 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 and it's not unreasonable for people to not want to, it's reasonable for people to not want to help protect criminals. Why is the left so dedicated to protecting the criminals? I'll tell you why. It's because they don't believe that there are criminals. They think it's the system that creates criminals. That if it weren't for the system or the society oppressing them in some way, then there wouldn't be crime. And so it's really not the people's fault. So we got to protect the people and we got to tear down the system, or we got to change the system because the system is what made the Somalis steal $9 billion. See how retarded that logic is? Normal people can instantly see how retarded it is. But these brainwashed lefties, they think that that's like, oh yeah, yeah, it's the system. It made him shoot somebody. It made them create fake daycares and to file fake paperwork and to take the money and fly it in bags over to Mogadishu. That was the system. It was oppression that caused them to do that. So you can't blame them. They're just weak little minorities who don't know any better. So guys, I got the comments up. I'm reading the comments. If you got anything to say, you want to comment, go ahead and put it in there. I'll see it. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share the video, so you get notified. I hope that you find this useful. So, the left is just losing its mind, and I'll show you a video later about this crazy psycho bitch, Jennifer Welsh, who basically is a fascist. And it's funny because the left is so crazily fascistic and authoritarian, and one of the tells of that is that they're always trying to paint the other side as fascistic. So um, you you can't really like argue with them about anything. They're super closed-minded. They want to be the ones in control, controlling everything, controlling the narrative, controlling how you live your life, controlling what you can say, controlling what you can do, controlling how you spend your money, controlling what you watch. Everything they want to control, because that's what extreme leftism is. It's left fascism, and that's why they know it, and they're so desperate to pin it on Donald Trump and the right that's all you hear is the right's fascist, that's fascist, upholding the law is fascistic. No, 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 no. The kind of shit that these people are doing is fascistic. They're shutting everybody down. They're trying when the Democrats get back into power, you'll see fascism on scales that you've never seen before in the United States. It's going to be horrifying and it's going to be terrible. And it's going to be the most extreme lawfare, crazy shit that you've ever seen. It's going to be one politician after the next because the left is basically a cult, so they all agree. The right is much more diverse in thought, so it's hard for us to get together and agree on one mode of action. But the left is like a bunch of lemmings, a bunch of sheep who just follow in line the whole thing, and so they're going to just be arresting people like crazy. They're going to be fascistic like crazy, and all their cronies are going to just fall in line like, yeah, we should arrest. Yep, yeah, Elon Musk is a Nazi. We need to put him in prison. Like without a shred of evidence, without a shred of any reason or logic. Oh, Trump's a criminal. Okay, well, what crimes is he committing? Because I feel like he is one, and because it's a feelings based ideology that's primarily run and enforced by out of control leftist females. They can't control their emotions. They believe in the truth of emotions over the truth of reason and logic. And so it's easy for them to get whipped up into a frenzy. And that's when things get dangerous. Because reason, logic, discussion, thought all go out the window. They get discarded. And if they get used at all, they get used in service of whatever the feelings want to be done. I feel like Donald Trump is committing crimes. Therefore, I'm going to use my reason to create crimes that he might have committed and show me the man and I'll show you the crime type of shit. That's what's really terrifying. Arresting illegals who commit crimes and deporting them is not fascism. It's not authoritarianism. It's simply rules-based order, law and order, like we've always had. No different. Same thing. But the left is so desperate to, it has to be bad so that we can look better. And they're so desperately trying to create some kind of chaos out of this so that they can pin it on Donald Trump. It's pretty sad, pretty ridiculous. But that's the left.